Fixing the Decline of Biodiversity by myself, Dylan Young, Jude King, Finn Kyogen, and Alex King. What is biodiversity? Oxford Languages defines biodiversity as the variety of life in the world or a particular habitat or ecosystem. Biodiversity is essential for the health of our planet. The variety of species form a web that support life on Earth. Biodiversity provides resources such as food, fuel, and medicine, and also regulates Earth's climate, air, and water. Without biodiversity, ecosystems become imbalanced and unable to support life. That is why it is imperative to conserve. That is why it is imperative to conserve and protect biodiversity for future generations and the health of our planet. We are currently in the midst of the 6th mass extinction, with species going extinct and endangered every day, according to Don P. Van, an associate professor at Utrecht University. This affects many natural functions, which also affects humans. Biodiversity maintains the food web, which controls the food production, ecosystems, and climate. The main causes for the decline of biodiversity is pollution, invasive species, climate change, habitat loss, overexploitation, and land disturbance.
So how can we slow the decline of biodiversity which is affecting the planet? Solution 1. Nature preserves. According to Indiana Department of Natural Resources, preserves are managed to maintain and or restore natural ecological conditions, and as a general rule are open to the public for hiking and nature study, or by advance permission for scientific research. The DNR also states that it is against the law to disturb or remove anything from a preserve without a special permit. A quote from E.O. Wilson, an American biologist, he states, "Only by committing half of the plant surface to nature can we hope to serve the immensity of life forms that compose it. Unless humanity learns a great deal more about global and moves quickly to protect it, we will soon lose most of the species composing life on Earth." Our solution is nature preserves because healthy ecosystems clean our water, purify our air, maintain our soil, regulate climate, regulate nutrients, and provide food. These things help restore biodiversity, which is why it is important to have nature preserves on our planet. Clean water and clean air are due to no pollution from outside sources such as humans. There are no buildings producing toxins which keep our air clean on nature preserves. Regulates and maintains nutrients, soil, and climates due to not being affected by outside sources. Humans are the main cause for many environmental problems, such as climate change, which we are experiencing, and biodiversity decline. Nature preserves help maintain biodiversity because of having no human impact. Although there are some issues for having nature preserves are very costly. Buying the rights to the land and having workers to watch over the land and protect it. People are also uninformed of the loss of biodiversity and the importance of nature preserves. People do not realize the impact humans have on the loss of biodiversity, and if we make people more informed, people will have different ways of living their lives. It also needs government attention, however, it is not seen as a prominent issue in society. We have to also use land that has not yet been occupied by people. Nature preserves can only be on land that has not been used and that is still economically friendly. Overall, nature preserves and biodiversity do not get enough attention that they deserve. This graph shows the increase in burned area from 1984 to 2020. Because of human deforestation, there is a lot of fuel on the ground, enabling there to be more fires. Again, due to human impact, which affects our biodiversity rates. Nature preserves will slow the rate of fires due to no human impact. Solution 2.
Another solution is putting laws and restrictions in place that will protect biodiversity. But are there already some? Well, according to the United Nations, the Convention of Biological Diversity is the international legal instrument for the conservation of biological diversity, the sustainable use of its components, and the fair and equitable sharing of the benefits arising out of the utilization of genetic resources. that has been ratified by 196 nations. The main goal of the Convention of Biological Diversity is to promote actions that will lead to and ensure a biodiverse future by restricting actions that are contributing to biodiversity loss. Bolivia is a South American landlocked country in between Brazil, Peru, Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Bolivia is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of biodiversity. So rich in biodiversity, in fact, that the CBD ranks them amongst the top 15 most biodiverse countries in the world. I bring up Bolivia because they have recently passed the Law of Rights of Mother Earth, a group of laws that give the planet rights just as any human would have. And included in these rights are the rights to biodiversity and clean air. Another example is Malaysia, a Southeast Asian country bordering Thailand, Singapore, Brunei, and Indonesia. According to Payson Tong, a Malaysian nature expert, Malaysia has, to this date, ratified 17 biodiversity-related multilateral environmental agreements to provide protection for its biodiversity. These MEAs complement each other in different aspects regarding their implementation methods of protection of biodiversity. However, here in the United States, passing a law is neither a simple nor a quick process. This is why many laws do not get passed. As you can see by this image, the process is very complicated. According to ushistory.org, they claim that less than 10% of proposed bills actually end up becoming laws. However, there is some hope for the future because there are already some laws in the U.S. that protect biodiversity. For example, the Endangered Species Act of 1973. These laws could be built off of and improved and updated since this is from 50 years ago. The state of biodiversity has changed since then.
Our third and final solution comes under the change of education curriculum. One way to increase awareness of the decline of biodiversity is addressing the main causes, which can include invasive species. Invasive species are taking over native species in areas like land, ponds, and lakes, and it increases and disrupts the cycle of biodiversity. According to Oakland County SISMA, identifying invasive species is key to controlling the spread. If invasive species were taught in science classes, then more people could help to identify and eliminate invasive species, enabling biodiversity to run its course without human interaction. Another major cause of biodiversity is pollution. Out of the many forms, but the most applicable is air and plastic pollution. Simple habits could be taught in school classes to limit the amount of CO2 emissions that specifically come from house generators. These simple habits could include things like turning off sinks, showers, and not leaving your lights on when you leave the house. On the other hand, plastic pollution could be slowed if schools promote the use of pathway bottles instead of plastic water bottles. In addition, in cafeterias, they could use silverware instead of plastic utensils that are dispensed into the environment and stay there for a very long time. This diagram from Info Diagram shows the different forms of plastic and how long they stay in the environment. It can be very detrimental to habits and other animals that live there. However, according to the Minnesota Department of Education, there are many stages to implementation and could take 2 to 4 years, not counting that you have the most reliable and great information that comes from higher authorities to be able to be implemented in the school districts. Overall, education is a somewhat viable option. However, according to UNESCO, leader of education for sustainable development, education is essential and equitable for the conservation and use of biodiversity. In addition, John Dewey once said, and I quote, "Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. These kids will learn, and this will be the foundation for the building blocks of their degrees. They'll learn this and remember it for their entire lives." The next generation needs to be collectively active in an educated society that cares about our environment.
Here's our conclusion. we collectively said that the best solution was to create more nature preserves. Nature preserves would create immediate impact to purify our air, clean our waters, and provide us food, as opposed to new laws and education, which would take years to make a change. To sum up, the future of biodiversity is unpredictable. However, it does not look very bright, as we are still at a very fast rate of extinctions. Marine life has decreased 49% in the past couple years, according to Fridtjof Cooper, a professor and chairman in marine biodiversity at the University of Aberdeen. In addition, if nothing is done about it, the Earth's temperature will rise 1.4 to 5.8 degrees Celsius, as stated by Maggie T. Khalil, who is a PhD and is an aquatic ecologist professor at Ain Shams University. The future of biodiversity is in jeopardy, and if nothing is changed, we will suffer irreversible effects to our planet's health. Thank you. Here are our sources.
Okay, so I'm going to ask each of you a question. I'll start with Alex King. Alex, can you describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that made you think differently about your team's solution or conclusion?
So I looked more at the historical and what laws we had in the past that helped biodiversity. In Jude's article about economics really changed my solution because it looked more at the cost side and which solutions are more viable, which showed us that nature preserves are costly but are the most reliable source for our solution.
All right, and Finn, what is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research that you did?
Okay. So I was the environmental lens. So in biodiversity is part of the environment. It's a very important part of the environment. And sorry, can you repeat the question?
What is a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
Okay, yeah. So I was in environmental lens, and our best solution was the nature reserves, and that was in a part of my essay. But we went into more depth and showed how it is the best solution, which I didn't study in my research, and it shows that I should have studied that, and it was the best solution.
Okay, so let's see, Jude, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem your group identified?
I would probably say Dylan's. His was futuristic, so looking at the future, what would be the best and fastest way to help the decline of biodiversity, which was our overall conclusion of nature preserves is the fastest.
Okay, and Dylan, give one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of learning about Jude's findings.
Jude's finding was he studied about nature preserves, which ended up being our solution, and that changed my thinking because I thought it would take a long, long time for the biodiversity to be fixed in the later years, but now being able to implement nature preserves is a much quicker way than laws and education that I thought.
Okay, great.